ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another Is It Worth the Grind video. Today we are looking at the Centurion Action X, the new tier 10 British medium tank. So is this thing worth the grind? Let's find out, but first of all, as always, let's talk a bit about the grind. So, as always, we'll start at tier 6. Cromwell, regarded as one of the best tier 6 mediums. I'm not really a biggest fan of it, but that's just because I don't really like these kind of guns that have trashy pen and have terrible aiming stats. But all of the tier 6 mediums are really similar in that way, and the Cromwell is definitely one of the better ones just because of its speed and ability to flank things, and then the pen does not matter that much. The lack of gun depression can be slightly annoying, but overall the Cromwell is pretty decent. Research order here is pretty straightforward. I mean, you get it all. It's tier 6, it's not that expensive. And move on to the Comet. The Comet is a bit mixed. A lot of people dig it. I do not. I feel that this gun is just a fucking it brings shame to your entire family. I mean, 148 pain, 140 damage. You do get really good DPM with a 15 rate of fire, but and you do get the anti-depression, which is nice. I mean, let's put this one thing straight. If you play Comet with APCR, sure, it's gonna be good. If you play Comet with AP, it's gonna be mediocre at best. The gun is fucking diabolical. The research order here, as you can see, I have actually skipped the tracks. Apparently you either don't need them, or you just put the fucking torsion bar thing on and just don't waste your time. All of these guns is a waste of time. You want to get the turret as fast as you can because it actually gets you some improved armor. Apparently I did use torsion burst as equipment when I played it. I guess that just shows how much I disliked it, that I didn't even bother to put optics on it and research the tracks that don't even cost that much. But whatever, let's move on to the Centurion one. Pretty decent tier 9, tier 8 medium. A lot of unlocks here, but I imagine these engines will be shared with a lot of British tanks. As you can see, pretty much all of the higher tiers share these engines. So if you played any of the British, you probably have this already. Again, these guns are kind of a waste. I don't even know why would anybody ever use this one. But I guess you kind of have it anyways from if you have played the Shermans and shit. The easiest way, obviously, is to skip this gun. If you don't have it, go for the 20-pounder right away. If you can just handle playing with this shitty pen at tier 8, which is kind of tricky, and I wouldn't blame you if you got this gun if you didn't have it already. The research price isn't even that high, 15k instead of going for 30k. Well, 32k is not that bad, but in the hindsight, I would not recommend this gun. I would rather recommend just tanking through this right away. You probably need tracks for that though, which is a bit of an issue as well. Moving along, Centurion 7-1. Also, pretty decent tier 9 medium tank. You can see the common theme here, that all these tanks are pretty decent. There's nothing really all that much wrong with them. This thing gets a pretty decent turret as well, and the 105 gun with a terrible DPM. A lot of people are like, oh, but use the shitty DPM, well, the good DPM gun with the shitty alpha damage. That's not really what I like to do in my life, and I believe that guns with rate of fire like this cannot just use their potential fully, and 226 pen at tier 9 is nothing to really jump around about, but you can try it. Maybe you like it more, maybe you don't. Again, the engines, I imagine, will be shared with most tanks anyways. A lot of tier 10s share the same engines, the Conqueror does as well, so you might have these already, but you want to get all of this. The tank's biggest weakness is the top speed limit, which was the weakness of the previous tier 10 as well, but yeah, that's the grind pretty much. I mean, just the real question, there's no like real highlights in this grind. All of this grind is like, it's alright, I can dig that, but there's no like real highlights. Why would you grind for something? So it has to be the tier 10, and is it really all that good? Let's find out. And here's the Centurion Action X itself. As always, let's look into the armor first. So you have 198 frontal turret, which is pretty damn flat below the gun. The rest of it gets some angling, but as you can see, the armor values aren't that great. So tier 10 heavies, mediums can usually pen the front of this turret pretty easily, and tier 8s can pen the turret wing bits here pretty easily as well. You do have an 85mm zone above the gun, which isn't really gonna be all that useful unless you use your gun depression. The tank has excellent gun depression to the front with 10 degrees, and once you start using this zone becomes impenetrable, and the cupola is not shown as well. So try to use this gun depression at all times. 201 armor below the gun will still remain, and the armor besides the gun won't be great as well. So the turret is not super reliable, as you can see, even if you use all that gun depression. And the hull isn't much better. You have 120mm of frontal plate angled at probably what is 60 degrees, but as long as you're not using your full gun depression, this plate is going to be fucking a giant waste of time. People will pen this with tier 8s and 7s, and lower plate is absolutely disgustingly bad with 76 armor angled at like 45, 46 or something like that. It's really bad. Tier fucking 7s can pen this lower plate easily. So the armor is definitely not the strength of this, so you should try to hide the hull as much as possible at all times. Side armor 50, can't do any side scraping with that, so don't even bother. And the top of the tank, as you can see, is a giant landing strip for these artillery shells, and fuck me, you do get one-shotted by arty a lot in this tank, and it is really unfortunate, but you know, artillery is fair and balanced, so let's not even bother to complain about it. Before we get into the game, as always, let's look at the gun depression. Towards the front it's 10, towards the back it's a 0 to 1, so try not to shoot people that are behind you, I guess, or just turn your hull a bit, so you get that gun depression bonus there. And yeah, that's all there is to really say about this here, so let's move into the replay. And here's the replay. Before anything, I have to say that I'm playing this with a pretty shitty crew. I have 100% of the main qualification and like 80% of the first skill, so I don't have Sixth Sense, I don't have Smooth Ride, I don't have Snapshot, so the gun stats you might see in this game and the general gameplay is probably going to be slightly worse than if you did have the best crew available. That being said, let's look at the stats real quick. So you get 99.15 hit points, pretty standard for any tier 10 medium. Top speed limit 53, backwards 20, that's all alright. Horsepower 1k 40, really good. 90.01 power to weight, and yeah, I'd said the top speed is 53, but it's fucking 53 and not 40 for first time ever in British Tech Tree. Not quite, but it's really nice change from the FV4202, which only went forwards 40. You really can notice the difference, and this tank does get you around the map much quicker. And if the power to weight didn't really sound all that impressive, comparing it to an E50M, E50's M terrain resistance is much worse, almost 2 times worse than the Centurion Action X, so this tank can shift. It definitely is much faster than a E50M, and it can relocate on all terrains much quicker as well. You saw the gun depression already. The turret traverse is 48, the hull traverse is 50. Both of those are really impressive for a medium tank as big as this. So your standard DPM is really healthy as well. 2.7k compared to the E50's 2.4k, 390 alpha damage, 268 pen. Stock reload time's like 8.6 seconds, but you can definitely get it down. The accuracy up at 32, also solid. The aiming time 2.1, but as I said, my crew is not all that good, so you do notice that the aiming doesn't really feel all that solid, but it is not too bad for sure. In comparison to something like a Leopard 1 instead of an E50M, this thing is like better in DPM, better in armor, better in mobility as well, surprisingly. But, well, really similar in mobility at least. And the only downside to this is that 2.1 second aiming time and slightly worse accuracy as well. And another thing that is slightly worse is the gun dispersion after moving your turret and after firing. That is worse than on the Leopard. But other than that, the gun is extremely solid. The tank is really solid when it comes to its weaponry, but the biggest weakness comes when you get shot in the face. And in this game I've been shot in the face by the 704, maybe peaked too aggressive there in the Heat 54, there's obviously nothing we can do about it. Now 2 fluffs here on the T44, complete waste of ammo, really unlucky to not hit any of those, and finally I do get to do some damage to him as well. But taking some ridiculous shots as well, like on the E100 right at the beginning, that shot was ridiculously lucky, and some other shots after that have been pretty lucky as well. So yeah, the gun is solid. It could be better with a better crew, but I don't have a better crew, so I just sit here and try every time. The equipment I would recommend, rammer obviously, vert stabs obviously, and coded optics obviously, pretty damn standard for any tier 10 medium. The view range on this, I forgot to say, is 410, which doesn't really make any difference from 400. I mean, you could argument with using like the consumable and not using optics and using like a gun length drive ventilation or whatever the fuck you want over it, but that's really up to you. I don't really use the consumable, so it doesn't really affect how I would play this tank at all. And you can see a great example of this tank in action. You go all down, you use your great TPM, and you just literally murder all your enemies. Pretty, like, not the prettiest game ever you'll see played in a tier 10. I mean, I did take some unnecessary hits, but the enemy team was much worse than ours, and we just stomped them. But you could see how quickly this tank and how efficiently it did damage, even though I missed a lot of shots there, and this game could have been much better as well. But there's that, and the game is over. Pretty disappointing ace, I guess, in comparison to what you usually see on this channel, but without 6th Sense, without the most of the important skills, it's kind of hard to get an ace in the long and epic battles, so instead we get this short brawl in close range where it's obvious when you are spotted and when you are not. A pretty decent result though, 5.7k damage done, 2.6 assisted as well, 1800 experience with the premium count, 1219 base, as well as 5 kills. So pretty solid game overall, especially when you consider that the game is only 4 minutes and 25 seconds long. So yeah, that's the Centurion Action X. Is it worth the grind? Yes, I assume it is. I mean, it's a really nice place in the game now where it's between the Leopard and the SDB-1. It is big and it is trashy when it comes to its hull armor, but so is the Leopard, and the SDB-1 is not much better. And comparing this to SDB-1, even without having any of the aiming skills, you can see that the gun performs much better anyways, and having that insane gun depression is always awesome as well. Its biggest weakness is the huge profile, but as long as you can stay hull down and you use the gun depression to just harass your enemies, you're going to be doing just fine in this. And it kind of makes the MX-30B pretty obsolete, the Leopard in a way as well. Those tanks are better when it comes to relocating at long distances with their superior top speeds, but this tank can pretty much own them in any kind of medium to close ranges. You do have the gun depression advantage, and you don't really have a complete paper turret, which is obviously nice. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. There's finally a British tier 10 medium worth getting, not only because you're British and you're patriotic and you're gonna play any kind of fucking dumpster piece of shit that Wargaming throws at you just because it's British. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one.